Welcome to the Freaky Film Club. I'm your host, Jeremy Jordan, and today I am joined with special guest Mitch Grande.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello. So it's last time we did this, which was just a few weeks ago. um, we,
It's true.
you know, uh,
Yeah.
we did Coherence,
Yep.
which is quite a bit different from this movie. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of similarities between the two, I don't think.
so it's going to be a good episode, not like those other ones that we've done. We're looking at a classic from 1984, Gremlins. This film was directed by Joe Dante, who had previously done some stuff. He did The Howling, which I think was probably what he would be most known for at the time. And then he he dabbled in a lot of different genres. It was a really interesting director. Um, and it was written by Chris Columbus.
And I made a joke about that when we were watching the movie. I was like, oh, look, he discovered America and wrote movies. That guy can do it all.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, but he actually is a pretty well-known dude because he wrote a lot of shit. This was, I think, his like one of the first things, but then he went on to do
Oh, wow.
um,
Okay. I didn't know.
Home Alone 2, tons of shit. Like a lot of like popular movies from the 80s and 90s, like family affair movies. I think he did This Is Doubtfire.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
Cool.
it's a quite a group of people here, and Steven Spielberg is
Yep.
basically the guy behind all this. And the story basically goes that actually Chris Columbus wrote it, and it wasn't supposed to be a film, but then Steven Spielberg's like, "This is awesome. Let's turn it into a movie." Um,
Was it like a book originally? Or like he wrote the screenplay and it was just kind of like,
yeah, it was kind of just like I think he was gonna use it as like a way to show other people like higher ups that like he had like chops, like writing
okay.
chops. So, but he kind of I mean, the Gremlins whole idea, is based on lots of stuff. Obviously, I mean, there's like the whole Chinese mythology. I read that there was a book by the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory guy, Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
He did like a Gremlins-esque
Oh,
book.
I
So
didn't know that.
there's a lot of various Gremlins throughout pop culture that kind of led up to this film. Um, well, before we get into it, first time watch experiences. Was this your first time?
It was my first. Yeah, like obviously I've heard, like I'm familiar with it, but I never actually seen it. So it was like honestly not what I expected, but it was good. I mean, it was a good movie.
Yeah. Well, mine, I would say it's kind of weird. I don't really remember a lot of this movie. Like it kind of felt like a first time
Right.
again. Because I'm sure that the first time I saw it was cable, and this is like it's either cable or just like having it rented it somewhere like back in the day.
Right. Like the kind
But
of thing you saw 20 years ago. And
yeah,
so watching it now, it's like, starting over, basically.
yeah, it's awesome. It's like all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like you. I know I was aware of the of all the pop culture behind it and what it is. So of course, it's made a huge impact, and it's gotten sequel. It's gotten a cartoon. It's gotten merchandise up the ass, and we'll dive in and take a look at it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So first, this movie opens up with Rand Peltzer, who is the father of Billy, and he's doing the narration. He's telling a story of what happened, and it's a great setting. It actually takes place during Christmas. this whole film, which there were a few horror films that had like sort of dabbled in that setting, which is always kind of cool to see because it's like a what is the word? It's like an interesting juxtaposition, would you
Yeah,
say?
juxtaposition. Very good. Yes, it is a juxtaposition.
So yeah, I mean it is it's and Joe Dante too. Another thing that I read was like he liked the snow because it made the special effects more convincing, he thought.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
So but yeah, I think it's cool. I love the whole like small town anyways, but then you add Christmas to that setting and it's like it's awesome. It's just it's
Right.
there's some cool vibes there.
Yeah, you get like that Hallmark feeling when they're like walking around the town, right? Like it's a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Hmm.
It's not at all, right? But like
Right,
again,
yeah.
that juxtaposition, it
Yeah.
doesn't make it interesting. Yeah.
And so yeah, it opens with his dad who is a sales or not well, he is a salesperson, but he's more of an inventor.
Right.
He's selling his own shit.
Right.
And his a lot of it his inventions are pretty wacky as we'll see.
I
And
think all of them. Like I don't think there's a single successful one
that's true,
in
I
the
guess.
movie, right?
I mean, he was onto something with the bathroom buddy. He was close.
Which
That
one was
was
that?
this was the one at the beginning actually that he was trying to sell to the
Oh, the
yeah.
the brick with the different like
Yeah.
bathroom okay.
Yeah, basically like Swiss Army knife, but for bathroom stuff.
Right. Right.
But like as a brick, yeah. But I mean, it worked except for when it sprayed shaving cream all over him. But that was a feature, I guess, not a bug.
Well, not at the right
Anyways,
time. Right.
okay, yeah. So all right, back to the beginning. I'm gonna get through this movie eventually, I swear. So he's trying to, well, he goes and looks through this Chinese shop, and there's a lot of interesting trinkets. But he's trying to sell them the bathroom buddy. Um, but he gets distracted by the Mogwai, which not to like derail us again, but this is actually it. This is an ancient. This is based in real, well, not real, but like mythology, like Chinese mythology. Mogwai, I think, translates to like demon. It's like a nature demon,
Oh,
and I was gonna read more about it, but I didn't, and I don't
well,
have any excuses.
that's okay. That helps because the Chinese, shop and the whole thing being Chinese, that helps because then it's not just outright racism, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
like
is.
there's meaning behind it, which helps.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. There is a lot to read about. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different websites people do it that have done like different research on it. But yeah, it's cool that it's grounded in some stuff. And it also there's like the whole World War I thing I read about where they would kind of like jokingly say like Gremlins were in there, and they do reference that in the movie later. We'll bring that up. But so he notices the Mogwai, and he's like, "Holy shit! Like this is insane! Like it's singing. Like what is this thing? It's like a puppy 2.0." And at first, the shop owner's like, "No, we know this isn't. We're not. We can't let this
Not for
go."
sale. Not
Right?
for sale. Yeah.
Yeah. And the kid is like, he really wants to make the sale because like apparently $200 is a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, with inflation, four hundred
Oh yeah,
dollars, but back then probably right, $500. That's
true. Yeah,
not bad.
yeah. So it does happen. The sale eventually happens. The kid convinces the shop owner to make the sale, and I thought this was odd. I guess they just wanted to make it a little like artsy as he was like walking away because they have the kid telling him what the three rules are as he's like walking away down the street, as if like it's almost as if like this is like something that he heard like a long time ago. That's
Oh
like
yeah, like the overlay, like he's walking and it's like playing it back in his memory. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's like instead of him, like he could have just said that, like They were just there. Like, but I guess I know they're trying to do like some cool like filmmakery things and like
Right.
have him actually like progressing. I mean, I get it, but and the rules are probably more important if it's over an echoey voice. They have
Right.
more weight.
Yeah, exactly. Then just a little kid telling you, right?
Yeah. And those rules are, do you remember what the rules are?
Don't get them wet.
Right?
Don't feed them after midnight. And
I think keep them out of the sun.
yes, yep, they
Yeah.
don't like lights. Keep them out of the sun.
So yeah, so actually not that hard to follow, but it's I mean stuff habitually like I would have a hard time with that. Like the lights especially. I mean, you just constantly are like flipping lights on at the house.
Right.
You just without
Yeah.
thinking about it. So
Right.
that'd
Like
probably
here's a
be
pet, but you have to keep your house dark the entire time you own it.
right. Yeah. Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it does seem like I mean Billy is having a blast. Like he doesn't
Yep.
mind that trade-off at all. Um
Is it weird that nobody's kind of like freaked out by this? That's the one thing that kind of struck me is like, here's this like Furby looking thing that's real,
mhm.
and everyone's just kind of like a little more blasé about it than you might expect, right? Like if my dad came home with this thing, I'd be like, "What the fuck? We gotta call
Yeah.
somebody!" Like,
Right. That yeah, 100%. Yeah, like even at that one point, like Corey Feldman, the little neighbor kid, he's just like he goes back to like reading the comic. Like he
right,
gets so he's so disinterested. He's just like, I don't I'd rather be reading this fucking shitty like what the heck, dude?
right. It's like
It's
a
like an
one of a kind
alien.
mythical creature. Yeah, yeah. He's just like, all right.
Yeah. If you're not gonna give me one, I have zero interest. Yeah. It is odd. Yeah. And really the only one I mean, even like the guy, like this the guy, the science teacher, he's like amazed, but he's still kind of like, it's I'm, like it's just whatever. We'll
Right.
see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll do
Um,
some tests on it. We'll see. We'll figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. But Billy is introduced now. We get some cool shots of like the small town. Um, I found this location of the Burger King to be really odd. I never seen it was like kind of just like in almost like a strip mall location.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're right.
Thought that I never seen a Burger King like that before. That
Maybe
was
back
the
in the 80s that was a
yeah.
thing. I don't know.
Let's see what else. So just talked about some great shots. So now we get to see the bitchy lady on her way to the bank, Mrs. Deagle.
Yep.
She's very Scrooge-ish.
Yeah, she's like the Scrooge of the movie. Totally. But
Unfortunately,
she'll
though, yeah.
she'll get her comeuppance.
Yeah. She doesn't really get her redemption at all, like Scrooge. Um, then we get to meet Billy. Well, we kind of met Billy. He was like on his way to running to the bank because his car was broken down. He talked to his neighbor for a while, which reminds me of our small town. You always have to like dodge small talk
Right,
on your
right.
way to like important shit. So I feel for Billy at this moment.
Yes, understandable for sure.
And then he's got like kind of this like weird jog on the way to work because he doesn't want to slip in the snow, but he still has to get there. So he works at a bank. We also meet the love interest, Phoebe Cates. Kate, that's her name. Kate
That's her
in the
name. Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Yep.
Played by Phoebe Cates, who is best known for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, especially one particular moment. But
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
okay,
I can surmise,
look
but
it up later. You won't be disappointed. She's also been, I mean, she's great. I think she's great, not just from that. I mean, Drop Dead Fred, other stuff, a staple of the 80s. And she's wonderful. They have actually great chemistry, the both of them, I thought.
yeah, I would agree for sure.
And so that Billy runs into Mrs. Deagle because her statue is broken. And she blames the dog.
Yep. Yeah, she
And
brings it into the bank and she's like, "Look what your dog did."
yes. And little does she know, the dog is actually there.
Right.
And he's so disappointed in hearing this that he jumps over and attacks Mrs. Deagle. And Billy, Billy's gotta like not bring his dog to work.
It is interesting. I've never had a dog at the bank. I kind of, whatever. Kind of with Mrs. Deagle on this one. Like, probably
Yeah,
not the place for a golden retriever, but you
that's the
know.
one kind of thing. Yeah, I would take her side on. Like, come on, Billy. Like, it's time to grow up. Although speaking of that, it was like, what age was he supposed to be? High school?
I don't know. I was trying to think about that too, because the bank job and he's not going to school. There's no reference to school besides, I guess, the science teacher.
Right.
Um, but I guess that could have been in college, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how old he is or how old he's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you also have Kate who's like working at the bar basically. Like she's just basically working two jobs. Well, because what's her other job? The bank.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bank. Yeah, she's at
Yeah.
the bank too.
Yeah. So she's working two jobs, and so she's I'm sure not going to school.
Right.
Um, unless it's just I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. And Billy still lives at home, which nothing wrong with that. But I don't know. The actor would have been like around 20 at the time. So he didn't strike me. I mean, at the latest, he would have been able to pull off maybe senior at best.
Right. Yeah,
But
it felt like you would assume he's like high school age, the way they portray him. Um, but yeah, the bank job and then the girl with the two jobs, they wouldn't be in high school anymore. So
right.
it is kind
Yeah.
of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, so um we later see Billy at the bar talking to Gerald, who is also like a high up guy at the bank.
By the time I'm 35, I'm gonna
He's
have
getting
to
like
afford
lectured.
this
He's just
villa.
this douchebag guy. It's kind of weird that he doesn't really come up again. Like, I don't know. You'd think there'd be some sort of payoff with that guy, but I don't. I think that's the only time we ever really see him.
Gerald, is he the guy? I'm gonna look it up while we're. Um, is he the guy who's also in Seinfeld? Because there's the
Oh,
guy, he's the close talker from Seinfeld
yeah.
also. And I saw him like, oh my God, it's the guy from Seinfeld.
I
Yeah,
thought he
Gerald,
looked
for sure.
familiar.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it
funny.
is. Yeah,
Crazy. Yeah, there's quite a few of those like, hey, it's that person in this movie, as we'll kind of
yeah,
see.
yeah.
Like
I was looking at
that's
the credits, the cast list after. I was like, oh, like I didn't recognize him. I mean, he was 40 years old now, right? It's like I didn't
yeah.
recognize these people. I was like, oh, that's that guy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, he kind of just lectures Billy. He tries to hit on Kate, gets shut down in a pretty funny way, and Kate flirts with Billy. It's very cute.
Yeah, yeah. Little budding romance.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell Billy I'm sick?
So now back at home, we get to see kind of like Billy's home life. We're introduced to Billy's mom. We see the first like weird, wacky invention. I mean, besides the bathroom brick, this is the egg cracker we see first.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And there's a great like what an awesome balance. I mean, well, I'm gonna probably continue to beat a dead horse because I'll keep talking about the balance of this as we go on, but like it's awesome that they can like walk the line constantly between like the humor and like I mean feel good moments and like horror. There's
And
some
the
horror,
suspense and horror. Yeah, for
suspense, yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so and they all do it. I mean, every time it's like, all right, it's like this is awesome. So like this moment here, like the egg cracker is hilarious. Like
Yeah.
uh Billy's kind of about to get some information revealed to him from his mom, but it's interrupted because his dad comes home and he's back with the gift. So we get to see finally kind of some of the puppet movement for the first time, some of the more intricate stuff. Uh, it's it's kind of cool. Like for being so old, like it's
I think it's really good. Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's really good.
Yeah.
It holds up surprisingly well. Like,
Where did you get this?
um,
Oh, some little junk store in Chinatown.
like there's always the like CGI versus like puppets or whatever. And like obviously it looks kind of shitty and fake at the same time, but like
Mhm.
it's pretty good for what it is. Like there's no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I heard like I read some stuff about this too. Like they were kind of like pushing to have like bigger puppets because like this one was like harder to work with, especially I think the Gizmo one. It was like it kept breaking down and like there
Mm.
was problems with it constantly. And they're like, please, like let us make it bigger. And I think Steven Spielberg or Joe Dante were like pushing back on that. They're like, no, it stays.
Deal with it.
We don't care if your hands are bleeding. But it was a good choice because
Yeah,
I like the look of that thing.
yeah, yeah.
It became very iconic. So obviously Billy's amazed. Like you said though, no one is like that crazy about it. They're just like, oh, welcome to the family.
Right. Yeah, like cool pets, not what the fuck is this thing?
Yeah, kill it with fire.
Right.
Um, yeah, so Billy starts to kind of play with the thing and they learn about the rules from the dad and they learn about the name change. He's like, I think he just likes the name Gizmo.
Right.
This would also be a good time to mention that Gizmo was voiced by Howie Mandel.
I've found that in the credits. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah, very bizarre. Good choice, though. He was doing all sorts of interesting, weird stuff with his voice, so it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And I think there was also some other voice actors involved, like Michael Winslow, the Police Academy guy. Was he did some Stripe stuff, and then there was some other. I can't remember the other people, but there was some other voice people involved.
Yeah, there were a lot of credits for the different, Gremlins, Mugwise. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they kind of play around with the keyboard. He starts to make like tones back. Um, he before that too, there's that scene where he kind of flips shit with the flash of the light from the
Oh
camera,
yeah. Yep.
and that's kind of
Yep.
where the rules are revealed. That was actually a genuinely like good jumpy scare moment, especially
Right.
if you're not expecting that.
Right. Because if you don't know where right, if it's your first time seeing it and you don't know all the pop culture background, you think you don't really know where it's gonna go, and so you see that and it's like, oh, like that's when the movie kind of starts taking its turn from the, just basic feel good thing, like kind of get into that more horror style.
Yeah. And so now we get some kind of more bonding moments with the Gizmo. He takes a tumble into the garbage can and then Billy has to go and patch him up. Uh the dog, I kind of felt like the dog was like watching a lot of this and being like, what the hell? Not even like jealous, but just like what he was actually like, what the fuck?
Right.
Out of everybody.
Somebody's got to call the FBI.
Yeah. He's
The
the
dog's the
smartest one.
concerned one. Yeah.
But yeah, so they oh yeah, so the next morning, this is funny too. That Billy tries another invention, the juicer, and it looks like it's gonna work, but then it just ends up spraying everywhere. And the amount of fucking juice that came out of this thing is amazing. Like it's like even after after the neighbor comes, so like we have the visit from the neighbor kid Pete, who is played by Corey Feldman, who was everywhere in the 80s.
Thought
Yep.
so too.
I think this was right maybe around the time that he was in that Jason movie, part four. And I mean, tons of shit. But uh, he comes in, he's kind of, I guess, buddies with Billy. I
Yeah, they got
mean,
like a big brother, little brother thing going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice, but
Yeah.
there's nothing, there's nothing creepy or weird about it.
I don't think
except
so.
when he takes
Like,
his
why'd you
shirt
have to
off.
say that?
I mean, no, I wanted to confirm. I just wanted to reiterate in case anyone out there listening or watching thought there was. I wanted to put everyone's minds at ease that I personally didn't think there was.
Great job clearing it up. This was
Yeah.
perfect. Good job.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Um, so he comes into the kitchen and like, yeah, the juice is like every fucking everywhere. It's all along the backdrop. But that was a nice touch. There's a lot of good like visual gags in this film. Um, so what else? um, sorry, just have to read my shitty handwriting
Nope.
again here.
That's okay.
Um, so yeah, Billy he starts to show off the gizmo, the Pete, and um he's really into it. And at one point gets wants to like hold the gizmo and ends up just knocking water on it. And this kind of sets everything in motion here.
Yep.
So what ends up happening is like spawns like five extras from the water spill. And as we talked about, Pete just goes back to his comic, which is really bizarre because like now it's even more crazy. Like now
Right.
there's five. So like
Right. And that's that like multiplied in front of you like fucking magic. And you're
right.
just like, cool. All
Yeah.
right.
Sigh. Yeah, I don't understand. But Billy's excited or concerned, a mix of everything. He goes to go tell his dad, who's in the garage working on another shitty invention, a card thing that just shoots cards everywhere. And what is it supposed to do? Like sort them?
I think probably shuffle. Probably a
Shuffle
card
them?
shuffler. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, almost. He almost had it.
Yeah.
So Billy goes and tells him about what happened. Uh, I guess like Billy's dad sees this as like an opportunity. He's not even mad at all. He's just like, we can just like everyone would like to have these things. Like if we could just keep multiplying them, we could sell them.
Right.
And I thought like again, like sort of like the Gerald thing. I thought maybe they were gonna go further with this idea too. I guess they kind of do, but like they I mean Billy's dad just sort of like leaves and then we never really see him again until the end.
Right.
And
Yeah. Because you would think that like that could be how the whole plot goes, right? Based on that. But then like it's just never mentioned again. Right. Just mention it
yeah,
and it's gone. Yeah.
like they could have had something more like him selling this stuff, try to sell it, could like further fuck things up.
Right.
And instead, it's just like they kind of fuck things up on their own because they're just like they're mischievous.
Right.
But I get it doesn't matter because this movie's awesome, so I don't care. um, but so now Pete, when they I also wrote it's kind of unsettling when the water gets spilled from Pete because it's just like they're gooey and they're like kind of just forming from a fuzzy blob.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they're like little like hairy tumors when they first like
Yeah.
pop out and then they like yeah. Yep.
And so five total. He kind of sees them as like having different personalities and like notices that like there's one leader and he's like the one with the stripe mohawk, call him Stripe. And so they're already kind of like you can see they're like kind of bullies because they're like picking on Gizmo already a little bit.
Yep.
um so then Billy ends up finding his dog outside like hot, like strung up with lights. Like this is like another like kind of like excellently dark moment in in that back and forth. It's like we can kind of tell like, all right, it's on now.
Right. Yeah, because it
uh,
really they hadn't really done anything yet, right? Like that mischievous. So then to go to that level, like we strung up your dog, so he's hanging. Like,
right.
that's a pretty big escalation from those little
Y-
guys.
Yeah, yeah. Not just
Because you
like
don't know
the
they're evil yet, right? You don't know they're bad or they have the potential to be bad. There's these weird fuzzy things. So
Mhm, right. Um, yeah, so Billy finds it and it finds a dog and he's thinking that that woman, Mrs.
Deagle,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, she did it. Which I mean, she very well could have. Like I would believe that.
right.
uh Billy ends up showing one of uh the creatures to his old science teacher, Mr. Hansen. And so they put a dropper on it and multiply another one out, and he keeps that one and decides to experiment on it. Um, so now, later that night, Billy is walking and sees Kate closing up the bar, and she's trying to get the drunk neighbor home. He's going on and on about like just random bullshit. Um, he's gonna try to drive home at one point, and he's talking about he mentions the Gremlins because he hates like foreign automobiles. He's a war vet, right?
I don't, is that stated? I don't know if it is.
Because I thought like, well, he's talking about like he brings up the war because he's like the whole alluding to like the Gremlins in the planes in
I don't
world.
remember. I don't remember that
Okay.
this part of the dialogue that well.
Okay. Maybe I could be mixing up too because I was just reading about like the mythology of the Gremlins, so that might just be something I'm thinking that was that wasn't there.
No, I mean he
He
might have. I don't know. Like,
but he does mention Gremlins.
right.
So it's kind of funny. But he is finally convinced to just walk home by Kate, and then Kate and Billy walk back home together. And then Kate goes on sort of like this depression rant. She makes it clear that she hates the holidays, and it's uh it was an interesting moment.
Yeah, Billy in his like, infinite wisdom is like, how could you hate the holidays? Come on. Like
Yeah.
completely tone deaf to the situation and what she's saying. He's just
Yeah. Bill.
yeah, like calm it down, buddy. Now's not the time.
Yeah, definitely. But he does still manage to get the date,
Yep.
and so he asks her out on some evening coming up, and uh sorry. Um Hansen then takes a blood sample from the creature. And then back at home, Billy is watching TV with Gizmo, and all the other ones are like begging for food. And Billy looks at the clock and he's like, all right, it's fine. I can feed you guys. So he goes downstairs, gets food, and feeds all five of them. And well, it turns out that Billy got tricked. So the next morning, there's like some weird, I don't know, like cocoon things. Like they're like gross and gooey and disgusting. And
Yeah, they're like it's like what if predators grew up in eggs, and maybe they do, I guess. Like that's what they would look like. Like is
yeah,
what you would think.
that's really a cool looking design, actually. I couldn't even tell you, like, I wouldn't even be able to guess what that actually was. Like
Right.
some kind of like balloon with latex or rubber or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But uh they also the science teachers experiencing this as well. And he explains that they're going through a metamorphosis. Um, and then the well, Billy finds out he was tricked because his clock was like chewed up or like just ripped out.
Yeah, like the cord was chewed up, so the clock had stopped. Yeah.
So they got fed after midnight, and that's what happened. And so uh Billy, his dad calls from a convention, and like there's some more funny like background stuff, like some sight
I said, this is
gags
great.
going on.
Actually, the
I
condo.
think there's some guy with like a weird invention, and just the phone setup in general is like really weird. It's
Yeah.
like four-way glass and four
Yeah.
phones facing each other.
Well, I think that's probably how payphones might have been that way, right? Like a payphone bank, right? Because it's like a thing, and then there's like the phones on the sides and little glass
Yeah,
separators. Like,
I
I think that's
suppose.
probably how they are.
I guess. It's just weird that like that they're all you could all just look at each other while you're making the call.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
But no, I
But
guess all
again,
right.
great juxtaposition, right? Because like there's these horrible creature egg things, and then you call there's like the robot in the background and
Right.
stuff of the,
Yeah.
the convention.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff for sure. Um then he um tries to say he'll be home in time for Christmas, and it's like it's kind of weird that he even had to leave. I didn't really understand this at all. It was just like it happened so fast. He just took off.
Yeah, they didn't really even explain it, I don't think. Like, I don't remember them like saying that he was leaving. He was just like gone, I think.
Yeah. It was kind of bizarre. Uh but yeah, so he's gonna try his best to get home. Not like he could. I mean, he's like constantly getting distracted with bullshit, it seems like. But um he Billy then um gets a call from the science teacher because they're starting to emerge now from the cocoons. And he just like gets the class out of there as like this thing escapes. And so like after his phone call with Billy, he goes back in to try to find it. And this is kind of like our first like little kind of glance at what these things are like. Uh First he finds it like behind or like underneath like a table or something, and he tries to offer it like a chocolate bar. And he reaches in there and then ends up getting his whole arm eaten and eventually just I don't know. We don't see what happens. We're just assuming that like he gets thrashed to death and then stabbed with that somehow.
Right. Yeah.
But Billy finds the body eventually after arriving, and he's like, "Oh shit. Like all right, it's on now. They've morphed." And the the thing like kind of runs out. It goes through like a vent. It scratches Billy. And so Billy goes to the nurse's office and he patches himself up, and then it pops out from the cabinet. That was a good moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it goes again through another vent, and trails off. And Billy then realizes, like, oh, if it's this one's hatched, then like, well, what about my house? And then we go back to Billy's house, and his mom is like hearing all this ruckus upstairs, and she arms herself with a knife,
Well, he
and
gets a call home, right? He calls her from the school and
he
he's like,
does.
"Mom, you got to get out of the house," but it gets cut off or whatever. And so she
Right.
knows, right, that something's up. She doesn't
Yeah.
get out of the house for some reason, right? I don't know
Right.
why, but she's like,
She's the yeah, I mean, she's the ultimate protector of the house. She's
right,
like, I don't give a fuck. I mean, it's me or the or you. And the cookie was the last straw.
right,
But yeah, it's she's a badass. Like
yeah,
she goes back downstairs. She hears the music on the record player. She is able to turn that off, and then all hell breaks out. There's one eating the cookie. She manages to shove that one like into like I think it's the juicer,
I think it was a mixer,
a
like a
mixer.
big stand mixer. Yeah.
All right, and she turns that on and destroys that one. She stabs another one that's on the counter. She sprays one with like flea spray and manages to shove it into the microwave, which is like, holy shit, this is insane.
Yeah.
um, that one blows up. What else? She goes into the living room, and then
Yep.
there's two more. One jumps out at her from the tree,
Yep.
and just
That's when Billy
as
comes in. Yep.
right, and Billy is able to get that one off with like the sword.
Yep.
But
Which
then,
I'm gonna say here. So what stuck out to me, so he grabs the sword off the wall, the gremlin's on his mom, and he just hauls on and swings that sword like, that far above his mom's head. Just like the bad idea, right? Like if this was real life,
yeah,
obviously, you
yeah.
know, really trusting yourself with your sword skills there to be, swinging that thing full force, like with your, mom's head, 4 inches from the thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Like, good on him though.
Yeah, he did it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then goes into the fire, and then we finally see the last one, which happens to be Stripe, and he escapes out the window. And but damn, I mean, what a moment for the mom, for Billy.
Yeah, she's a fucking boss, it turns out. Like she took out three with her bare hands
Yeah.
by herself. And the other thing that I thought was kind of funny is like when she first, the record player comes on, she doesn't really know how evil they are yet. Right? Like Billy called home, was like, hey, you gotta get out of the house, but he didn't like say, oh, they killed Mr. Winslow or whatever. And she comes downstairs and they hadn't done anything yet.
Mhm.
And she starts murdering them before they get the jump on her. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
she could just tell by how they looked, but she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you guys even before they do anything.
Right. Yeah. That's true. Just it's a mother's instinct.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh man. Yeah, so Billy chases down Stripe, which leads them to the local the YMCA, where Stripe is able to jump into the pool and like causes like a huge multiplication. Then the whole area kind of starts to freak out. Excuse me. And there's like green lights and fog everywhere. Um, so Billy uh, runs away, tries to go to the police station, and um, no one is taken seriously at all. Kind of like that you would expect, and
Right.
sort of like the cops in every horror movie. Like they're just like, you're a joke.
All right, kid, come on. That's
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. Meanwhile, like the cops are like one of them's drunk.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've got there's some good stuff in that. Like they bust each other's balls a little bit, and like the sheriff's like, I get well, that's later. I'll tell that's later. Never mind. um, so Stripe and an army of gremlins are walking up the street, and that I don't know how they did this. That's a pretty cool looking scene. Like, just a
Yeah,
very
you see a
brief.
thousand gremlins, right,
Yeah.
walking up the road. Yeah.
Obviously, it seems like maybe they must have used like some like small models for like the some of the stuff. Sometimes maybe like if they're doing like some town stuff with the puppets, but
Yeah, there
it's
was the one scene in particular that stuck out as like clearly small model type thing. Yeah.
it's really neat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to see as much practical as possible.
Yeah.
It always yeah, it just holds up in most cases so much better. Uh, what else? So back at the sheriff's office, or before that, they just cause chaos throughout the neighborhood. So they hijack that tr the tractor trailer thing and plow through the house of the neighbors. Forget the names,
The drunk guy,
but
Murray. He's the
yeah,
drunk from the bar earlier.
yeah.
Yep.
Then they're like they do all sorts of stuff. They make both lights turn green at the traffic stop. There's one that hides in like a mailbox, like bites someone's arm off.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then this is when they rig up the old woman's uh stair lift thing to go super fast. Right. And
Yeah.
she sits
Yeah.
down and it goes and launches her out the window.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And again, like another great mix because it was scary until she got launched out the window. And then it was hilarious.
Right.
Like something about seeing that is like amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and the cops showed up right at that very moment as she's landing. Um, and then there's also the guy who's dressed as Santa who's got like a bunch of them on him.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And they're like, that's old man Jensen. He plays Santa every year. What the fuck's happening with him? um, like the cops are so, I mean, hilariously inept. Like, the one drunk cop is like, it's not supposed to be like this. It's Christmas. And then
Right.
they,
As if
they
as if that's helpful to the situation. Right. Just
yeah,
like commentary on what's going on.
thank you, sir. Yeah. And then they find out that their brakes have been cut, so the car flips and they roll over. Uh, so yeah, what else? Billy drives off to the get. Well, we don't really know. He's at the time that he's going to get Kate. I don't think he just drives off. He's happy that his car started. Um, Kate is at the bar serving just a shit ton of them and like trying to keep up with all their demands. What a trooper. She's like so dedicated. I mean, I guess she has really no choice.
Right.
Either
She's
that
under
or
threat. So
yeah. She could I mean, I kind of wondered though, like, why not just run out the back real quick? But she does finally she sort of comes up with her own plan that does work pretty well. After some like real funny slapsticky moments, almost like too much. Like, I mean, nah, it was fine. It was
and,
funny.
I don't remember this part that well. I was having trouble focusing this part where they were like causing the mayhem in the town. Like when the cops got their brakes cut until like a little later when they end up at like the grocery store or whatever. Um, like this part is like a little gray. Like it was almost too much. They spent a little too much time just showing them causing mayhem. I felt
Uh-huh.
like, and it was kind of like losing focus a little bit here during this part.
Sure. Understand. Yeah, I mean, it's like the bar stuff goes on for quite a bit. Like they do I mean, they really it's like we get it. I mean, it's it's weird though cuz like every one of the things works. It's all funny. So it's like hard to complain, but it's like it just does drag out. Like they do like stuff at like a card table with one of them pretends to have like a puppet and is like getting all close to this other one. One of them has a gun. Uh,
Yeah, that's right. I remember the guy.
they're playing cards, like an old Western style card game. He
That
shoots.
one cracked me up. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them has like leg warmers. They're doing like I think it's like a flash dance kind of thing. Uh, I mean, what else? I mean, there's like so much pool table stuff happening. Yeah, it's silly, just silliness. But
And again,
eventually,
juxtaposition, right? Because like, is it a horror movie or is it a comedy?
yeah,
Both, I guess. But
right. Walking a very well, not a, yeah, walking a line.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so Kate finds out that she can use light to get rid of them. So she grabs the camera and starts to flash a bunch of them and make her way out of the bar. Um, Camera dies, and she has like a moment with one of them that has the gun. And then like it's kind of awesome because like she does just like this small little like duck out of the way. And she's like, all right, basically just pushing him. And then um some oh, Billy drives into it too, drives through, and that's like shines some headlights on too to kind of like get some of them away.
Right.
Um so yeah, he shows up, and then they're gonna escape in his car, but it breaks down again, so they have to leave on foot. Um and then So they have end up going into like the uh kind of like this random building, I guess. I mean, it's like a factory or something, I don't know. And Kate tells her a really sad Christmas story. We finally figure out why Kate hates Christmas.
4 or 5
And
days went by.
this is an
The
interesting
girls
moment.
continued to sleep.
Spielberg did not want this in the movie. He's like, this is too sad. Or he's like, it's hard to tell if it's supposed to be funny or if it's supposed to be sad. And then
What
Joe,
is it? I forget. What does she say?
so the story is that her dad died in the chimney because he was gonna come down dressed as Santa and surprise them, and like he slipped and broke his neck.
Oh my God.
He's like,
Okay.
instead of finding a dead animal, we found our dad. And that's how I found out Santa wasn't real. And so, but
Oh my God.
Joe Dante makes a great point because he's like, that is the point. I mean, that's the whole movie. It's a mix of funny, tragic, it's both. It is
Right.
both. So it's
Yeah.
perfect. And so he fought hard to keep it in, and he got to keep it in there. And I think it's a good story. I think it
Yeah.
adds to it. It
It
is,
fits the movie really well. Like,
yeah. And the way she tells it is awesome. Like, I mean, she delivers it perfectly. Like they got the close up and the light shining on her. I mean, it's what a fucked up thing. um, yeah. So, I would hate Christmas too. I definitely would hate Christmas too. What else? So now they walk through town and see all the carnage, and they see that like everyone's gone, all the gremlins have gone, and they find out that they're in a movie theater watching Snow White. And um I think a lot of these guys that are involved in this were big like cartoon fans. There's a lot of like cartoons sprinkled throughout this and references, and even at like the toy store, they have like cartoon plushies and things like that.
right. Yeah.
So they are really into the film, and so Billy and Kate come up with a plan, and they also have Gizmo. I don't know if I mentioned this as well, but he's in a little like satchel, and their plan is to blow the theater up and trap them all in there. So they go down to the boiler room. They It's just as simple as just releasing a little hatch and letting the gas go.
I gotta say, their ability to blow up a building on command, surprisingly good. Like,
Well, yeah, Billy gets it from his mom.
I guess
Those
so.
warrior instincts run in the family.
Right.
Yeah, so he just lights up this little rag, leaves it on the ground, and of course, that's going to be enough to trigger this reaction to blow the theater up. And I was confused at first because I thought at first like they were already outside running away in an alley, but they were in the theater, just in the back part of the theater. And they trapped the gremlins inside the theater.
Right.
But at first I was like, what are they? What's the point of blowing this up now? And they're outside. But no. They were just outside inside, and they managed to both escape, trap the gremlins inside, and it actually kind of worked. The plan kind of worked.
Yeah. I mean, it
However,
killed most of them, right?
yeah,
Essentially. Yeah.
yeah. The only one that really didn't die was Stripe because he escaped to go to the department store and get candy. Even though there should have been candy at the lobby of the theater, but they probably already ate.
No, come on. Yeah.
That's fine. So he's at the department store, and this is like kind of the final showdown now. And they've picked a lot of killer locations too for like all the different settings in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we have got this department store which has tons of like nostalgia. I mean, there's like cool items on the shelf, like an old Garfield plushie and like all sorts of old toys. Um, I mean, that old BK that we talked about, the just the town in general. I mean, it's so cool. It just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy.
Yep. The movie theater was like the classic with the, triangle thing over the sidewalk. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder if the marquee with two films on there were references to anything, like if they were like Spielberg, like movies that he was into as a kid or something, or
I don't know. I remember explicitly it saying Snow White, right? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was
yeah.
on there. So,
But they also show the marquee, I think, earlier in the film too, when they're doing like a
oh,
pan.
probably. Yeah.
And I think one of them it says a boy's life, and then one of them is like something like invaders from blah blah blah. So I wonder if that was a reference to something. But should have looked it up. But again, it's like you get to when the show is over, you get to continue. It doesn't end. Like you get to do some homework
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can continue down the rabbit hole of this
Look
film.
up every detail from the movie.
uh, but yeah, so there. This is kind of the big moment here. Kate goes off to try to find lights with Gizmo, and Billy grabs a bat. And even though he just blew up a theater and he's holding a bat, he still kind of looks like a dork. It's hard for him not to.
He does. Yeah.
He's got his little like sweater vest on and his little collar, but he's cool. I Billy's great. I love
He's
the
a good
underdog.
character. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's like
yeah,
lovable and everything. Yeah.
yeah. So he goes and tries to find Stripe. Um, there's a lot of tension. Eventually, Stripe does find him, and he's got like a chainsaw,
Yeah.
and manages to like get really close to Billy with that thing. Um, but Kate is able to turn a light on from a breaker that she finds and get
Yep.
him off. Meanwhile, Gizmo has found a toy car. He's gonna try to come to the rescue, so he's like on his little way over. Um, Billy uh, goes after Stripe again, sees that Stripe has made his way now to a like water fountain and is about to jump into that and multiply.
Right.
And
Then starting all over again if he makes it
yeah,
in. It's like it's the
fuck.
climax right here.
Oh God, don't do it, Stripe. And gun again, a gun. Very weird to see a horror villains with guns because you don't see it very often. Recently, it's just have you seen the movie Terrifier?
No.
Okay, it's very fucked up. But a thing that sticks out to me in that movie is that Art from that film uses a gun, and it just adds a lot more to horror when you know that like the villain can just use a gun too, because it's like, well, now we're not just chasing like or getting physical. Like
Right.
I gotta dodge like bullets.
Right.
There's
It
high
makes him a lot more
stakes.
untouchable in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So eventually Gizmo does come to the rescue. He jumps up a shovel or a rake that's leaning against something with the toy car and gets into the scene. And at first I thought maybe they were just gonna like fight like one on one. Uh, but he ends up like pulling kind of like a shutter of sorts and like it opens like
Oh yeah. Yep. Like the
sun.
skylight thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it reveals some light into the room, thus finally ending Stripe once and for all. And some creepy body horror shit happens to him. He kind of melts Uh, they're the last like gasp where his like basically his skeleton like comes out. He's like really kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Probably the creepiest part of the whole movie. Uh, and then there's a little ending scene where back at home, um, they have to give the Mogwai back to the old shop owner
Yep.
because they just couldn't handle it.
Right. He comes back. He's like, I told you, you had the 3 rules. This is why it wasn't for sale.
You guys really fucked up big time.
Town's on fire. Movie theater burned down.
And you're
People
just
are dead.
and they're just chilling watching TV. Yeah. But then he does have a little sweet moment where he's like, Billy, he's got something to say to you. And Mogwai, Gizmo pops out. He's like, bye, Billy. And then he kind of leaves it open because he's like, maybe one day you will be able to handle it.
Right.
Because truly, Billy was responsible. I mean, probably should have kept Pete away from that thing. He's clearly got ADD and just
But I mean, the real problem. Well, no, I guess because Gizmo was good, right?
yeah,
So I guess if he hadn't spawned the new ones, it would have been fine. Because Gizmo was chill. He wasn't gonna like try to get fed after midnight. It didn't seem.
right, yeah. He didn't. Yeah, he didn't even. He seemed to be aware, even in the moment that Billy was being tricked,
Right.
and he didn't want the chicken. Uh, yeah. I mean, there would be a sequel to this eventually, so maybe one day down the line we'll check that out. But that is Gremlins. Hell yeah, moments.
Me first.
Sure.
All right. Um. God, hell yeah, moments. So the bar scene I don't remember a lot of, but you mentioning the gremlin with the gun shooting like an old western, that I do remember that part, and like that is just like that was fucking hilarious to me. I don't know why, but like that's really funny. Um, and then the mom just demolishing 3 of the ones in the kitchen, just like hands down, springs into action, 3 of them dead off the cuff, like. Should have just let her take care of the rest. It would have been
Yeah.
problem solved.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. I also wrote the mom going ham in the kitchen, specifically the
Is that
microwave.
hold on. She went ham in the kitchen? Is that like a come
Ah,
on, Jer?
no pun intended. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it was great. The microwave specifically, also I read about that. They used a balloon and it like just exploded
Oh.
in there.
Yeah, more practical effects. Like it looked pretty good. Like
Yeah.
it was pretty solid.
Yeah, that was cool. They should, yeah, like they should have had more. I mean, I know they had quite a bit, just that small section, but like more hand-to-hand combat stuff would have been awesome. Like they could have easily like just ripped those things apart. If some guy had his adrenaline pumping really, like they could have done some cool stuff. But
Yeah,
they did. I mean, they did a lot.
right. Yeah, I mean there was enough physical slapstick stuff going on. There was no shortage of that through the movie. But no, there wasn't like not a lot of like hands-on fighting after that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, otherwise, I would say maybe some of my other hell yeah stuff would be like just the total chaos that happens throughout the neighborhood. They just get up to so many antics,
Yep.
and yeah, and just the general looks of these things. It's just really neat.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so yeah, my final rating for this is gonna be 4.5 smokeless ashtrays out of 5. I would say it's a near perfect movie. You know, there's some minor things, but like as we've talked about many times, it walks the line really nicely, and it almost like there's more. It could have been a little scarier, and there was a push. There was some darker stuff that was supposed to be in this, but again, Spielberg was like, "Got to pull the plug on that because we want it to be more of a general audiences thing."
Right.
But they did try to push for darker stuff, so it could have been interesting to see what they would have cooked up had they gotten to stick with that darkness.
Like more on the pure horror side instead of this weird like hybrid thing.
Yeah, yeah. But either way, I think it ended up working really well, and it will be a movie that you can watch at any time, Christmas, Halloween, whenever you want. It's a classic. So that's my rating. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I would give it a I think 4 out of 5. Um, it was good for sure. Um, and I think I just I like the comedy horror thing, but it's like I don't know, maybe because it's 40 years old makes it a little harder to watch. But it's kind of tough at the same time because it doesn't stay in either lane, which is like really cool in a way, but also a little distracting, I think, from it in a sense.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
And then the other problem, my only like problem with the movie was that part, like I was saying, like when they're in the bar, and then the little bit after, like it felt a little slow, and like they showed the mischievous, like there was like 20 minutes in the movie where it was just
Hmm.
antics, and over and
Hmm.
over, and after like 10 minutes of it I was like starting to lose focus, like I said. And it's like I have to imagine the writers just sat around like, all right guys, what are they gonna do? And they come up with this big list, and it's like, all right, how many can we get into the movie?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel that.
Yeah,
I mean, they could have easily cut out any of the stuff that happened after the couple gets like run over
right,
and gone right to the bar, or even like just right to Phoebe Cates escaping from the bar. We would have missed a
right.
beat.
Yeah, just a minute in the bar of them, right?
Yeah,
Like just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like this whole thing with,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that we did this. I think it's always good to revisit the classics, and um, it's getting me in the spirit. So
for Christmas or Halloween. Which one?
both.
Yeah, there we go.
This is for all the people out there that are sick of me banging the Halloween drum super early. Now you get the best of both worlds.
Right.
So, all right. Thank you,
Hold on.
Mitch.
Before we go, I wanted to
Yes.
ask. So at the end, during the outro, they have the narrator come back, the dad, and he talks about the Gremlins, and it's almost like they make it into this thing, like a I don't know, moral layer on top of the movie where it's like,
Mm,
so when your TV's on the fritz, remember it might be the Gremlins.
yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, is that like a weird play, like that the Gremlins were really focused on like, I don't know, just like causing chaos specifically, or like electronics, because they kept focusing on the electronics aspects when the guy was talking at the end. And it just kind of, I thought it was like a little out of place. Like we
Hmm.
don't need a story here. Like it felt like just kind of like I don't know. I thought it was kind of like a weird way to end the movie.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, especially, yeah, like, because the narration only kicks in once at the beginning and like once at the end. If Billy's dad was like throughout it trying to like talk about this, then it would have made a lot more sense.
Right. Right.
Um,
But they just like slapped it on at the end, like just
yeah.
had him talk and like explain it a little bit, and it was like I don't know, felt kind of weird.
Yeah. It's like unearned.
Right.
Or like pick a lane at least. Like you said, like they try to hit you with the moral thing, which actually I'll admit that was good. It got me. I almost like welled up a little bit, having just come out of my environmental ethics class and seen what we could do as people to the God's great gifts to us. I mean, it got me. But then, like you said, then he's like, and remember, like as if we're like just watch the kids movie, like as
Right,
if like watch out for the gremlins. Like what
right.
the fuck?
Right, it was like Frosty the Snowman. It's like the
Yeah,
outro from Frosty the Snowman, where it's like, so the next time you see a snowman, remember to put the hat.
yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that is it was weird.
Yeah,
I wish it would have been one or the other or none.
right. Yeah.
But to me, it wasn't enough to take anything away from it.
No,
So
for sure. For sure. It was just like just a weird way to end it, but it wasn't like
yeah,
super, super detracting or anything.
yeah. But yeah, that was bizarre. And anything else about this film before we?
Oh yeah, yeah. One more thing. We were talking about all the inventions. That mom and that kid deserve a fucking medal for dealing with all their dad's stupid inventions, right? Like the mom uses the remote to answer the phone, even though
Oh
it's like a
yeah,
foot from her, and it doesn't even work anyways, and she has to
yeah,
walk over and pick it up. And the juicer and the egg cracker, and they like you can tell they're so annoyed, but they're good people and they keep trying because they love their dad. Isn't that so
yeah.
nice?
That is amazing. Yeah, he must be a lovable goof.
I think that's exactly. Yeah, he's got like a Homer Simpson vibe a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. They should have. I wish they would have focused like done more with that guy. But I mean,
Well, he had to go to the inventors
he was
convention in the
very
middle of the movie.
busy.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. What can you do?
Yeah,
Well, all right. I guess that's all then. Thank you
right.
for joining me again for a Freaky Film Club.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for the
uh,
suggestion. And this one was great to see it for the first time. It was a worthwhile watch for sure.
all right. Yeah, heck yeah. Until next time, I don't really know what we're going to do next. Could be back in the realm of sci-fi. Who knows? But until then, stay freaky and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
See you later.